turn me on. Okay, to our guests that are here today. Okay, look, you are here to observe these proceedings. You're welcome in this room. I will give everybody one chance. This is the Rules Committee. Of all the committees you could possibly attend, it is the least controversial and probably the least interesting. Hold up. I'm just telling y'all, one chance or I clear this room, because I want to hear from everybody that's here that has rule submissions. We will hear from them, period. Okay? There are multiple representatives that have prepared multiple rule submissions. We are going to get through all of them that are here to be presented. If you do not wish to be in this room, it is entirely your choice as to whether or not to be here. If you are here and observe quietly the proceedings that are here, you're welcome here for the entire time. If you cannot abide by those rules of this committee, the committee room will be cleared, period. So please, I ask you to participate quietly in this proceeding. Hold your signs up. You're welcome in this room until which time you choose not to be. It is your call. With that, Mr. Clerk, take the roll.
Representatives Boyd, Camper, Crawford, Farmer, Representative Farmer, Representative Hakeem, Hicks of Washington, Littleton, Shaw, Williams, Zachary, Chairman Lamberth.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have 10 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. Up first, out of respect for the minority leader, we have Leader Camper. Leader Camper, you're recognized. And I do need a motion or a second.
Motion. Second.
There's a motion and a second on the rules presentation. Leader, do you wish to present? There are several rules changes that you have presented. Do you wish to present those as a group?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll present them as a group.
Thank you. The floor is yours, Madam Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members, I'm presenting these rules as a package because I feel as if what we've done here has been so quick and there's not been a lot of transparency to the public, not a lot of input from the public. And I feel that maybe some legislative findings would be necessary as we are convening this special session. So I'll start first, Mr. Chairman. One proposed rule I have is dealing with public transparency. And I think there should be a requirement that no bill proposing changes to the congressional district boundaries shall be considered in a committee or on the floor unless the full text, including the maps and supported data, has been publicly available for at least 72 hours. I think that would give members a chance to look at it. I think they'll give the public a chance to look at it, to have input. I feel as if, Mr. Chairman, with that public transparency, that all of the maps should at least go to the block level of geographic data, county precincts, demographic information, to include the methodology for how this was developed. With respect to public hearings, Mr. Chairman, my second recommendation for these rules is prior to any passage of this legislation. This is a momentous event we're dealing with here. I think there should be public hearings, Mr. Chairman, across the state, one in the west, middle, and east portion of our district, because as you know, any change in any one part of any district will have a ripple effect across the state. I think there should be public notice at least 7 days. And then we should allow the public to have testimony for legislative record. Thirdly, I feel as if there were some legislative findings or some legal compliances that has gotten us here, any bill altering congressional districts shall include legislative findings stating these three things: the legal basis for altering the districts outside of its decennial apportionment cycle, compliance with Tennessee Code Annotated 2-16102, compliance with the U.S. Constitution and the Voting Rights Act. And prior to final passage, such legislation shall include a written legal analysis or certification addressing compliance with the applicable laws. I also feel, Mr. Chair, there needs to be some fiscal accountability. Fiscal notes are very important in this body, and I feel as if we should not consider any passage of any bill without complete fiscal note. Any appropriations necessary to implement changes to the congressional districts shall be considered in a separate bill and subject to a separate recorded vote to give us the fiscal accountability we feel is necessary. This is taxpayers' dollars, and we're asking taxpayers to in fact pay for this. Mr. Chairman, I think debate is very important. Oftentimes things go through pretty quick here. And I think each member should be guaranteed a reasonable opportunity to speak on this legislation that's coming before the House. So with that, I feel that no bill considering congressional district shall receive passage until at least 2 hours of cumulative floor debate has occurred. And that's without a previous question being asked. All amendments filed in accordance with House rules shall be publicly posted prior to consideration, and all final votes shall be conducted and recorded via roll call. Two more, Mr. Chairman. One on timeliness, on a timeline. No bill shall pass both committees and the House floor on the same day. I think if a bill comes out, people really have to understand this stuff. I think the citizens have to understand this. So I know late in session, we go through a flow motion, but this is keenly important. And I think that we should not do both on the same day. A minimum of 24 hours shall elapse between the adoption of any amendments and final passage on a bill. As you know, Mr. Chairman and members, some of these bills can be 1 page, 2 page, some of them can be 30. And we need time for understanding and vetting of those amendments. Lastly, ethics and disclosure. Any member participating in the drafting of congressional district maps shall disclose the identity of the individual or entity involved in map preparation, and if there's any use of political or electoral data within the district maps. Such disclosure shall be made part of the official legislative record. And with that, Mr. Chairman and committee, I move adoption of my package.
Thank you, Madam Leader. And you had a motion and a second already, but want to just, if I might ask us just a formative question here on this. On subsection 3 on your rule submission, whom do you anticipate would do the legal analysis? Would that be in-house counsel here, the Attorney General's office, outside counsel? Who did you envision on that one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, in-house counsel.
Okay, so legislative legal?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I do anticipate under 4 that no bill considered final passage without a completed fiscal note. That is what our normal protocol is, and I don't anticipate that would change during this special session. And then it is my understanding a separate bill has been filed for the fiscal impact of anything that were to come out of this special session and to pay for the expenses of the special session. So just for the members to consider, I believe both of those things are true. And I don't mind saying publicly that you and I have spoken before this session was convened that we will jointly request of the speaker that there be equal time of the caucuses. Obviously, this is a very weighty decision and a big change for the state, potentially the nation. And we will jointly be going to the speaker to ask for equal time for both caucuses and for that to be a lengthy time. That would not be a short time, but a lengthy time. With that, members, what questions do you have for the leader on her rule submission? Madam Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to your question and comments on the fiscal accountability, I agree that there will be a budget appropriations bill to fund all of this. But what I was considering in recommending this was that each bill could potentially have a fiscal impact. And so when you put that amendment on there that may be 10, 12, 15, however many pages, that amendment in and of itself might create a fiscal note. And that's the fiscal note that I was making reference to, that we get a chance to see and digest. I understand there'll be appropriations bill to, to deal with all of this, but I'm just trying to I would want to have a look at a glance at what would this cost us separate and apart from each of the bills that are being filed. So that's the angle I was going on that. And I do agree, Mr. Chairman, we had a lengthy discussion about equal time, so.
Thank you, Madam Leader. And again, members, any additional questions for the leader at this time? Or any questions for the leader at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll be voting. Unfortunately, we will not be on the board. It's a voice vote, just the nature of the committee. But all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay? No. Nay. Noes have it. Unfortunately, the rule submission fails at this time. Guess? I'm not kidding. Please, if you choose to be escorted out, it is your call. This is not a sporting event. You did not show up this morning to go to a football game. It is a legislative committee. I am asking you politely, out of respect for one another and the members that are on this committee that have a rule submission, some of which you may like or dislike. I am asking you, out of respect for those members and each other, I do not want to clear the room. I wish for you all to sit here and participate and be a part of this process. But you have to do it silently so that we can conduct our business. You may hold up any signs you want. You may hold up your phones. You can do anything you want to, as long as it is quietly. You may flip me a bird, ma'am. I saw that. Yes, ma'am. You may do that. I don't care. Okay? But I ask that you do it silently, please. Okay? Thank you very much. Representative Shaw is the ranking member on this committee and the most veteran member of this committee. Out of respect for you, Representative Shaw, if I can get a motion and a second on his rule submission. Second. You have a motion and a second, Representative Shaw. If you will, do you wish to present these as a whole as Leader Camper did, or do you wish to go through them individually?
As a whole, but I'll be very brief because some of them are similar to some of the things she talked about.
Yes, sir. Representative Shaw, you have the floor for your presentation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. Never thought that I would come in kind of under this pretense and leave under similar pretense, because my district was redrawn simply because there was not enough representation in rural West Tennessee for voters at the time I came in. And what I did, I looked back at some of the things that were done then and wanted to kind of present some of these things this morning for us to give consideration to. The number one thing, I think we should allow submission of written statements from the public to be accepted in this process, because this is going to affect a lot of people in a whole lot of ways. And not only are we talking about a congressional district, but it's also going to affect our local legislative districts. And I think that public statements should be made. I think it is a rush to judgment for us to have to do this just so briefly. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done, but I think public statement would be certainly something for us to give consideration to. Second thing, I'd like for us to expand the number of witnesses to testify to 6 rather than 4 each, because there again, different opinions of what people think and have to say about these matters are very important, and they affect so many people's lives in so many ways. And because we traditionally don't necessarily understand other people and how they grew up, what they think, how they feel about things, I think more people should be involved in making these kind of decisions, because again, these decisions will affect the lives of so many people. Thirdly, publish all documents, including proposal maps, testimonies, written statements, and an online proposal that will be activated for the next 5 years for people to be able to look back, to look at this, to see where we did the right things or the wrong things, so that if we ever should do this again, we'll be able to do it even better and more efficiently and effectively than the way we are doing it right now. And then I think also the Rules Committee should outline or seek clarification on what attorney-client privileges is about in these situations, because sometimes there's so much clatter going on till we can very easily get the wrong idea or pick up the wrong information and not understand what we're talking about. But I think it should be very clear and made very clear publicly from whatever means we use to make sure that people understand what we're doing and why we're doing these things. So I think that's very important. And then I think to require 3-day review of the public, of the redistricting files and all of the data and demographics and voting age, populations, all those things need to be considered in this matter. And finally, require the disclosure of communication between the lawmakers and officials at both the state and federal level as to what we're talking about in terms of why we are doing what we are doing. And as having had a little bit of experience about this, I think all of this is important as we go forward with this. And I would move that this committee would accept these ideas to make sure that we do this more efficiently than just really putting something together over the next day or two. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Shaw. You have a motion and a second. I have Representative Akeem on the list, and members of the audience and members of the committee, quite frankly, if you can silence your cell phones, please do so. It's not that big a deal for one to ring, but if you don't mind, I heard a couple go off earlier. Again, not the end of the world if it goes off, but if you can, it'd be great. And we're going to do the same up here. So, all right, Representative Akeem.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I'll use the term, the people have not had an opportunity to voice their interests and concerns. And I'm questioning, for transparency's sake, we talk about understanding going forward what has transpired, that it be stated what the concerns are in regards to the information that was asked for, or process that was asked for by Leader Camper. And I feel that it's going to be the same way with Representative Shaw, a yes or no vote. But if the people don't understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, that gives them a reason to question what our intent was. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative Akeem. Any additional questions or comments or debate on this? Representative Shaw?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that I recall, it took me about 4 months after I came here to learn how I got picked to represent District 80. And I found out that the citizens did a survey through, at that time, Memphis State University. And what they had asked for was the names of people in the community who were active in their community in various ways. And I was told that my name came up quite often because I was active in the community doing different things, going from place to place, visiting, whatever. But they took some time to do that. They did not rush to judgment to say, we won a district, so now we're just going to pick somebody to do it. They took some time to pick out the person that people knew, and for the lack of a better word, I don't mean to brag, trusted to do this. Someone who would really represent them well and not represent parties, but represent people. They took time to do that, and that's why I'm bringing this proposal. I don't think race is the issue as much as trusting people to do this. I'm not here this morning saying it's a Democrat or it's a Republican issue or if it's a black or if it's a white issue. I'm here saying people need to know who they can trust to represent them. And when they find out who that is, I don't think it matters what race it is. They just want to know I can trust that person. And I've served for 26 years and represented I've got votes on both sides of the aisle every year. People trusted that because I never lied to them. I showed up when I needed to. If I didn't know, I simply said, let me get you an answer. Give me a day or two to do that. And I think that's what people are looking for in the process more than race. I think they're looking for people that they can trust to do the job and represent them well. And again, that's why I'm asking for these proposals to be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Shaw, and thank you for your 26 years of service. Additional questions or comments on this rules proposal? All right, members seeing none, will be voting. Again, it'll be by voice vote. All those in favor of Representative Shaw's presentation and rule submission signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay? No. Sorry, sir, the noes have it. That presentation does fail to move forward. All right, I know that we have Representative Jones here. You're up next, sir, if you are prepared to present. All right, and do I hear a motion or a second? There's a motion and a second. As I asked, I don't recall if you were in the room when I asked the other members this. I think we've gone through this before in previous rule submissions. Do you wish to do this as one presentation where you present your entire rules package, or would you like to one? Sir, you have the floor and take as much time as you'd like.
Thank you so much, Representative Lamberth, members of the committee. No matter what rules are passed, no matter what decorum we try and perform, we have to be clear that this is about race. That you can, Representative Lambert said this is, reprimanding the audience, this is not a sports game, but they're treating this like a game where Black people's political power is expendable. He's told the audience, please be respectful to him, yet he's not respecting the Black Tennesseans who live in this state. And so I find a little bit of righteous indignation that we're having this facade of pleasantry when you are saying that people who look like me and people who look like the members of this side of the dais are not equal citizens in our democracy. I look before me today and I look at a segregated dais. And that's where we're being taken back to. And so these amendments are very simple. It's simply trying to appeal to you all to have a process that allows for adequate deliberation. We've all been in this body the past session, and we know what happens. Look at how unusual things are right now. We've turned off the board and are doing voice votes when we said that under this General Assembly, we're going to do everything by either a roll call vote or to see so that there's transparency for the public, but we turned off the boards. And so I'm here today with 7 amendments, committee. The first one is one that you all are very familiar with. It's about calling the question. It's about using the parliamentary process to shut down real conversations. And so this first amendment is simply saying that in order to call the question and end debate on a motion or bill, 3/4 of lawmakers present must vote in the affirmative. It's to protect minority voice in this process and to ensure that we have adequate opportunity to share the concerns of the 70,000 people each of us represent here. Those who you want to crack and stack and break up their districts, at least let us have a voice to speak for our people. Rule amendment number 2, in order for an amendment to be considered timely, it must be submitted at least 1 hour prior to consideration of the legislation it amends. So usually we know it's 24 hours, but we've been brought here extraordinarily with a few days notice. We don't even have the maps yet of what we're voting on. We don't even know what we're voting on because you haven't presented us or presented to the public or the media what these maps look like. So give us adequate time to amend it. And as long as our amendments are submitted within an hour, that should be sufficient for us to be able to be a part of this process. If this is a real process, because I know the truth and you know the truth, you determined this way before we walked into this building today. Foaming at the mouth for the Voting Rights Act, the crowning jewel of the Civil Rights Movement, to be struck down to say, now we got them. But I ask you to consider these rules to maybe prove me wrong just a little bit. Rule amendment number 3 requires the speaker to maintain a written list of the order of lawmakers to be called on to speak on a bill. This order is to be determined by the order in which lawmakers raise their hand to be recognized on a bill. The clerk must maintain each written list per bill as part of the public record. One thing I've noticed, I don't know if it's because I'm a person of color, I'm Black, but sometimes it seems like the speaker doesn't see my hand or the hands of people who look like me to speak. And so I'm simply saying, if we raise our hand, let us speak for the 70,000 people who sent us up here to be their voice. Let us speak for the people whose voices you're taking away. Let us be a part of the conversation. And so if we have our hand up, don't let the speaker determine it arbitrarily, where he gets to say certain members can speak and certain members are invisible. They don't exist. Because that's what you're doing. You're taking us back to that Jim Crow system where people like us couldn't even walk into the same doors and be treated like equal members of this institution. Rule amendment number 4, the speaker may not recognize another member when a previously recognized member is still speaking or otherwise has begun their time unless said member verbally yields their speaking time to another member. I think it was the last day of session, we saw something very unusual. Speaking from the floor, and the speaker, without even giving me opportunity to yield the time, gave it to one of the representatives there to cut off my speaking time, to present the concerns of my district about a very serious piece of legislation. But I guess I forgot the other rule that is all too familiar here. We went to the clerk, but the clerk does whatever the speaker says. And I hope that this process is different. Rule amendment number 6, all votes must be taken on the board or by a roll call vote.
Please. You had started off by saying you had 7 rules amendment. I had 9 here, and you had skipped 5. Did you wish for 5 to be a part of your joint submission, or did you want to submit 5 as well?
I'll submit 5 as well.
Okay, if you want to step back to that one, then I didn't know if there were 2 of these that you didn't want to put forward, or if you want all 9. If so, I just want to mention you had skipped over 5. If you want to go back to it, please, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll go through it if you have questions at the end. I see we don't have any questions for any other members, but if you have questions,
may
I'm
have
happy,
questions?
I'm
Yes,
happy to answer questions, but it seems like Lambert's giving you a marching order, so y'all are going to just go ahead and follow the
Representative
leader.
Jones?
And so I'm going
If
to
you'd like to
continue
go back to 5 or catch it back later, either way. Please.
reclaiming my time. Thank you. Rule amendment number 6, all votes must be taken on the board or by a roll call vote. No voice votes will be permitted either in committee or on the House floor at any time. I didn't even know what would happen today, but I just knew that you like to play tricks. And I knew that this process would not be fair. And so even before I walked in this building where you've shut off the voting boards, this was a rule I wanted to submit to you all. Because I hope that these voting boards are on when we're voting for these racially gerrymandered Jim Crow maps. I hope these voting boards are on when we're voting for you taking away the voices and bringing us backwards to pre-1965. I hope these voting boards are on. And so rule amendment number 5, a question may not be called on an amendment in the bill it amends at the same time. The clerk must take each motion separately and each vote must be taken in that respective order. These are some technical things, but I'm trying to have clarity and transparency and fairness in this process. You cannot let a member just automatically, as soon as we get up, call the question on an amendment in a bill and shut down debate. And so these are all things to safeguard the process, to make it so that you cannot simply shut down the voices of our districts and of our people when we're presenting on the floor. Rule amendment number 7, the lawmakers in possession of their own limited speaking time when recognized and may reclaim it after yielding it to another member or witness for any purpose. The member's request to reclaim my time immediately ends the speaking privileges of the individual to whom the time was yielded and returns the remaining speaking time privileges to the member for any use they determine necessary. We know what happens. We ask a question, you all filibuster, read the bill to us. We can read. If we have a question, we expect you to answer. If we have a concern, we expect you to treat this with the seriousness that it merits. This is one of the most important special sessions probably in our lifetime, because you are spitting on the graves of our civil rights elders and martyrs. We saw a time like this in this building before, if you study Reconstruction, where we had Black lawmakers after the Civil War, and then from the end of the 1800s to 1960s, we had no Black folks here. This is not something that we haven't experienced before. And so if you're trying to take us back to that time, at least be willing to answer for it. And so if we want to reclaim our time, we ask that you don't simply filibuster and try and distract and deflect and use deception and insult our intelligence, as one member did, asking a Black lawmaker, can you read the bill? Yes, we can read the bill, but do you know the bill that you're presenting before us, or was it simply handed to you? Rule amendment number 8, all bills must be submitted to the body for consideration at least 24 hours before consideration. Any bill brought before a committee on the House floor with less than 24 hours must be approved by a 3/4 vote of either the committee or the House in which the bill is being considered. And finally, rule amendment number 9, is in response to a House rule you implemented in the last special session, banning use of visual aids. This rule amendment says that the use of visual aids, including enlarged maps and graphics, shall be permitted for use during the extraordinary session. We should be able to see the map in our committee. We should be able to distribute it as you try and bring us backwards to Jim Crow and divide our districts. We should be able to see for ourselves what neighborhoods are being targeted, and we should be able to present that and be able to hold that up so we can see it and use it for our conversation. And so with that, I submit these rule changes. I know there's no questions. I know that this Jim Crow committee has already determined the outcome, but I'm happy to answer questions if you want to have a serious conversation. You brought us back here with a few days' notice. We've come before you. Some of you took off work. We've taken time from our families to be here, and so I hope that you all recognize what you're doing. Don't just follow Trump. Don't follow the likes of George Wallace and Bull Connor. But one day you'll have to answer to your children and grandchildren. And you must choose this day. What day are you on? What side are you on? I hope you choose a side that when you look back at this moment, you can say, I did what was necessary and I put my purpose above my title. And Representative Lamberth, I'm looking at you specifically. I just got back from meeting with one of my civil rights elders. And it breaks my heart to see what you're doing today. People spent days in jail cells and endured nights of bomb threats. They endure the smack of billy clubs and the blast of fire hoses to get the Voting Rights Act passed. And you're saying, no, I don't care about that. You can smile and you can be as polite as you want, but I know in your heart what you're doing is really violent against them, against that legacy. And so I just wanted to look in your eyes and tell you that, Representative Lamberth, that you will be in the history books with Bull Connor and George Wallace, and your children will be ashamed of where you stand by presenting these maps. And these are the rules I present to you. And do with them what you want. But you all are out of order by bringing us back here for this racist special session.
All right. Thank you. Members, again, thank you, members of the audience, for remaining silent and respect for the member. I see we've basically started off right where we took off, but started back where we left off, I guess I should say, during session. But you obviously have shared your opinion on this well beyond your rule submission, but are there any questions for the rule submission specifically? Representative Hakeem.
Thank you, sir. Representative Jones, the transparency, do you feel is here today? The fact, as was pointed out, the boards are not on, which was a surprise to me and maybe others. What benefit is it to us to not know, for the public to not know where we stand on these issues? Could you share that with me?
Representative Jones, you're recognized, and I will say the boards are not on in this committee because it's not a standing committee. We're not actually loaded into the system. We're here for a special session. That's my understanding, just logistically why the boards are not on. It's not a purposeful decision on anyone's part, but please respond to the question.
Thank you, Representative Hakeem. And I know Representative Lamberth always has a reason for injustice, but I think that what we're seeing today is kind of a canary in the coal mine of how this special session may be run. If today in a rules committee, as we first walk into here, we just are starting the process, this is how we start. Imagine how this process is going to unfold as we continue through these next 3 days. You know, we haven't seen any maps. We don't even know what we're voting on. We're going to be given a piece of legislation and we'll probably have less than 24 hours to vote on it. We are simply saying there's no need to rush. There's no need to turn off the lights of our democracy. But if you're doing what you believe is right and fair, you should be able to be up to public scrutiny.
So, Representative Jones, you made up some sort of scenario where the votes don't. Hang on. Look, as the chairman, and I've just let folks know, we're going to roll call your rule submission. I'm fine with that. The board's not on. You've made some sort of a big deal about that as if there's some nefarious purpose. It's not on from a technical standpoint. We'll roll call this submission. You don't have to ask for it. I'm going to do it as chairman. We're going to do a roll call vote on this submission, and we will have a roll call vote for this, okay? So I don't know if that satisfies your concerns or not, but you've made a big deal about the board. The board isn't on from a technical standpoint because this committee was not appointed until this session was called. Representative Jones.
Representative Lamberth, again, I'm pointing out what is not an exception to the rule, but what is the rule that we've seen throughout our time in the 114th General Assembly. is these arbitrary decisions. I'm not speaking up just for fairness for me, but every member of this committee should have had a roll call vote or should have had their vote on the board. And it shouldn't take somebody from our side of the aisle pointing out to you for you to do the right thing and then say that it wasn't nefarious. Everything else is working in this room, the microphones, the lights. You have every police officer here, sergeant at arms, but you forgot to turn on the boards. Make it make sense. And so what I'm saying to you is, Representative Lamberth and to my colleagues here, I hope that the special session is not like the session we just saw, in which there is no transparency, in which there's no accountability, in which there's no real conversation and real analysis and real answers given. And so I hope that you will allow this to be brought before the daylight of the public to say that would you also agree to let us see these maps? I'm sure you've seen the maps. Will you let us see the maps before, with more than 24 hours ahead before we vote on them? Will you let us know what legal people you're talking to? Why is it that the House ethics lawyer, who's supposed to serve all of us, is now working behind the scenes on formulating these maps? All of these things are being done in a very troubling way. And it reminds me of days past, when people were told to count the number of jelly beans in a jar, to take certain tests, to jump over all these hoops in order to have access to democracy. And I think that's what we're being brought to today. And so I hope that the members of the other side of the aisle, again, will recognize that you do not have to simply fall in line. You're being led down the wrong path. You can stand on conscience. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? Expediency asks the question, is it political? But conscience asks the question, is it right? That's what you have to ask yourself, my brothers and my sister.
All right. Representative Zachary.
Thank you. Later, move previous question.
Is there a second?
Second.
Question and a second is called. Is there objection? Nope. All right. We'll be voting as a roll call vote on this. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Reminder members, voting yes is a vote for the submission of the rules to be accepted into the rules of the special session. A vote of no is for these particular rules package not to be included in the report from this committee. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Boyd? No. Boyd votes no. Representative Camper? Aye. Camper votes aye. Crawford?
No.
Crawford votes no. Farmer?
No.
Farmer votes no. Hakeem?
Aye.
Hakeem votes aye. Hicks of Washington?
No.
Hicks of Washington votes no. Littleton? No. Littleton votes no. Shaw?
Yes.
Shaw votes aye. Williams?
No.
Williams votes no. Zachary?
No.
Zachary votes no. Chairman Lamberth?
No.
Chairman Lamberth votes no. Mr. Chairman, you have 3 ayes, 8 noes.
All right. Representative Jones, unfortunately, that fails, a vote of 8-3. Thank you. All right. I have next here, by the way, has anyone seen Representative Pearson? He did make a rule submission, but I have not seen him in the room. If we can have the Sergeant at Arms check outside just to see if Representative Pearson happens to be here. If he is, I'd be happy to hear his submission next. While they see if Representative Pearson is here, I have Representative Boyd, who has also submitted a rule submission. Are you prepared to go forward, sir? All right. Do I hear a motion or a second? There's a motion and a second. Representative Boyd, do you wish to do these as one submission as a group or individually?
I'll do them, Mr. Chairman, as a group.
All right. Representative Boyd, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, you should have before you a copy of the regular rules of the House, and in there you should have some highlighted and amended rules in there. And so I'll just start at the top here. Rule number 4 of the House of Representatives deals with order in the gallery or in the lobby. That would actually change that so that if someone is removed from the gallery for disorderly conduct, rather than being allowed back the next day, they would be out for the remainder of the special session. There would be...
For God's sake, everybody else you were quiet for, you allowed them the respect of just putting their rule submission out there. Please continue to do that. I have asked y'all. It is entirely your choice to stay in this room or not. I am asking, look, all of us say on a regular basis, and I mean it, that differing voices are to be heard and respected so that differing viewpoints can be considered. If you believe that, I ask you to allow that to go forward today. We have done that with the other representatives. Please show respect for this representative and allow him to do his. Representative Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And members, the rules in here are largely administrative in nature. Due to the abbreviated nature of this special session, this will streamline some processes, help us maintain decorum. And so the next rule would add similar language to the one that I just described. It would also apply to the committee rooms as well. If someone is expelled, they would be expelled for the remainder of the special session. The next rule is under item number 12, order of business. We will suspend with welcoming, honoring, and announcements for the special session. We will also, most of the members of this committee are familiar with the flow motion that we do at the end of session. This would change us to a flow motion, and it would have a amendment filing deadline adjusted to 24 hours prior to session, which is similar to how it was in the last extraordinary session. Mr. Chairman, I can go into details about the flow motion if people are unfamiliar with that, but I think most of us are pretty familiar with that. So that pretty well summarizes the rules, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that was succinct. Do we have any questions for Representative Boyd? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Boyd, on the portion where you're saying, was it Rule 4, that in the galleries, people will be, where is he at? Oh, yeah. People will be, once you clear the gallery, it will be for the entire special session. What then would happen with those seats? Could they be reapplied for? Can someone, will they be made available for other people to come in and submit to sit in those seats? Is that how you envision this? No, that's okay.
Representative Boyd, if you know the answer to that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so, yeah, just to clarify, so this would apply to individual people. So if a person is removed, that person shall not be permitted to return for the remainder of the extraordinary session. I suppose if they were able to secure a ticket, they could get in. You know how in order to get into the gallery now, you have to be ticketed. That would be more of a administrative question for our clerk's office as to whether those tickets would be made available. And Mr. Chairman, if that's the desire of Leader Camper to hear that, we can ask. We've got the clerk here, but if they could secure a ticket, then they could certainly sit there.
Madam Leader, if I will, again, from a technical standpoint, because it's individualized tickets, if an individual has been removed under these rules, it's my understanding, then that individual cannot come back for the remainder of this special session and just the special session. If an entire section of the gallery were cleared for that particular day, there's not really a way for those tickets to be reissued for that day, but they would be reissued for the next day. So they would be available online for anyone to get those tickets for the next day of the session. And I think they're out there now for that, for folks to be able to get tickets. So it's an individualized basis, is my understanding from the clerk. Leader Camper, again, for any additional questions. And I have Representative Hakeem and Representative Shaw on the list. Leader Camper.
So under this new rule, with respect to a person being put out of the gallery, and I imagine in the committee room, the same is what I think I heard him say. The tickets will be made available the next day for someone else to apply for. So if I had a ticket, well, can I reserve them for 3 days in a row? Right. So
Yes.
if that person is sent out for 3 days because they made a ruckus, the next day, that ticket will be made available for someone else to access so that there are no empty seats per se. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? Oh, Mr. Chair?
That's my understanding, talking to the clerk on what the process would be. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think that answers my question on that.
I have Representative Hakeem.
Thank you, sir.
No, I just.
In my view, I think we have to take into consideration, are we silencing the voice of the people? When we have contentious issues, people want to be heard. And are we saying to the people, your voice doesn't matter? We have the power. We will do what we will. And so I'm asking, if someone is not throwing anything or and so forth, should they be allowed to voice their concerns that you're going in the wrong direction? And that's just my comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative King. And then I have Representative Shaw, and I'll come back to Leader Camper. Representative Shaw.
Well, maybe the question has been answered. What about groups? We talked about individuals. What if 12 people act out of order at one time and all 12 have to be put out? How does that affect? I'm just using that number 12, could be 20 or whoever. How would that affect groups?
And again, it's my understanding, and just a side conversation with the clerk's office, they logistically have to run that program through the online portal. I'm sure most of the folks here that are watching know you go into the online portal on capitol.tn.gov, you reserve a ticket for a seat in the gallery, and then you're guaranteed that seat in the gallery. And so with that, if there were 12 people that were removed, then those individual 12 people would not be able to get a ticket for the remaining days of however long they last for this particular special session. But other people could. And so those people would be ineligible if they were removed from the gallery, but others would be eligible for those tickets and those seats. So, but for that particular day, it's my understanding there's not a good way to reissue those tickets in that given day. So, Representative Shaw.
So will there be someone, I know the names are there, but at that moment, who is going to remember what 12 it was?
So ordinarily, that's the sergeant of arms and the troopers that do the best they can to identify specifically so that only individuals that have violated the rules would be the ones that would be prohibited from coming back. All right. And I have Leader Camper again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had some additional questions for other portions of the rules, but since we're still on this particular rule, Representative Boyd, did you mention something about committee rooms too and impact? Could you talk about that one more, to be a little clear with me, because I have a question around that. Clearing of the committee room or something you said?
Representative Boyd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, and Leader Camper, a rule has been added. It's number 21 on the last page after uniform rules of committees. It says when any person engages in conduct or commits any action deemed to be detrimental to the orderly business of a committee, such person may be removed from the committee room. Any person so removed shall not be permitted to return to any committee room for the remainder of this extraordinary session. It's item number 21 under the uniform rules of the committees, which is number 83 on the last page.
All right, Representative Camper.
Thank you. Now with that, what we've seen, and I need to get this clear in my head how it's going to work. What we've seen, that there's been time the entire room has been cleared based on whatever the chairman felt was appropriate at the time. Now, if we have people set to testify that was sitting there minding their business, waiting to testify, and the entire room is vacated, is there a way or provisions to allow that person that's on the list to testify to still come back in and testify maybe once the room has been cleared? Or do I need to have them in a holding pattern somewhere?
Representative Boyd, if you know the answer to that question, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question. I would defer to the clerk's office on that.
So, Madam Leader, I will say traditionally what has happened, we've tried to just kind of work through that process. Each committee chairman has done that a little bit differently, where that they do have the discretion where if there's witnesses there that are witnesses that are not part of the audience that has been cleared, they have tried to bring those back in. I think it's much more of a case-by-case basis. And so as best they can, they try to hear from the witnesses still. And there's nothing in this rule that would preclude those chairmen from being able to do so for those particular witnesses. I think it just depends on the circumstance. Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but this is an extraordinary session for an extraordinary action we're about to take. I think there needs to be clarity for that chairman with respect to the testimony that people, I got somebody that want to come from Memphis to testify, and I would not want them sitting there and right before, the fit hit the shan, they're thrown out, and then now they can't testify. So I would hope, Madam Clerk, Mr. Speaker, we need to address this issue and figure out, I mean, I don't even know who the chairman's going to be. I won't know that until 2:00. And so whoever that chairman is, we're giving them the power, based on how our rules are, to make that determination. I just think in a normal scenario, when we're in session, we get it. But this is extraordinary. There needs to be some clarity on that. And I'm just hoping that while we're discussing this rule, maybe we can, I don't know, take a recess, talk to the speaker. This is keenly important to me.
Leader Camper, thank you. I will say, if every audience is as this one has been, they're here, they have followed the rules of this committee, they're in this committee, and nobody has been cleared out of here, witnesses or otherwise. I understand, but I mean, then we don't have a problem. If it goes beyond that and there has to be a clear, we will definitely address that with the speaker and whatever chair that are appointed. Representative Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will tell you, it's been the custom of this body when in committees that I have been affiliated with, if the room is cleared, if they are on the list to testify, they're brought back in to testify. I mean, that's been the policy that I've seen. I don't see that it would be any different in this one.
All right, Representative Akeem.
Mr. Chairman, we keep dancing around the issue about, we were talking about customary, and we're saying this is an extraordinary session. And we can't say whether persons who are going to testify will be allowed to do so. I mean, there seems to be something lacking here. I need some clarity, if you would, please.
Yes, sir. Representative Akeem, every effort will be made in every instance for witnesses to be heard. However, if there is a safety concern, or if there are committees that go beyond the point where it is safe for the members that are there, that for the individuals that are testifying, and for the other guests in this building, then sometimes a committee has to be cleared. In that, hopefully, unnecessary circumstance, the chairman's going to have to work it out as best they can. But yes, there will be a heavy emphasis put on, just as Chairman Boyd and Representative Boyd said, on making sure those witnesses are still heard. But obviously, they have to make sure everybody is safe. And so it is very fact specific. Again, if the audiences and the crowds that come in, as this one has today, that are very passionate about their issues, and there's no safety risk and there's no outburst or anything like that, then we all move forward, and this is not a non-issue. I hope that is what occurs, but it's fact basis. Representative Akeem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I can't understand why we can't be clear. If the witnesses have not been a part of anything considered disruptive, why would we say maybe they can or maybe they can't testify? And to me, again, it's like usurping the basic rights of people. And I think we need to get beyond that. I oppose anything that would not allow those persons who are going to speak to have the opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Representative Akeem. And Leader Camper again, and then I have Speaker Zachary on the list for a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Boyd, would you be open to an amendment to that portion to say that they can
Representative Boyd, you're recognized.
be allowed to speak? Or,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't think so. I think it's pretty clear if the more we talk about this and I think about the customs of this committee, if a person is set to testify and they individually get expelled from a room, they have given up their right to testify. If the room is cleared because it's getting loud and they're out in the hallway and the chairman has them on the list, I think they could be brought in. That's kind of the way it's been done in the past. And I don't think that we have to clarify it any further. So I wouldn't be open to any amendment on that.
If I may, Leader Camper, I'm going to recognize Speaker Zachary at this time. One of the other roles that he fills in this body is he is the chairman of the chairman, so to speak. And so, Speaker Zachary, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. In members' audience, it's important to remember, just like in Washington, there's a decorum and a code of conduct in the gallery and everyone who is present in our proceedings. When we are elected as representatives, we are the voice of the people. So we keep having a conversation about the voice of the people, and you may not like it, but we are the voice of the people. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle, us, you represent us to be your voice. In terms of participating, absolutely. people should be in the galleries, people should be in the audience. But in terms of being a voice and speaking into the process, that is what we are elected to do. And we will be the voices of our people on both sides of the aisle, and we will debate issues, and then we will vote based on that. And Mr. Chairman, Leader, what I can say, Madam Chairman, Madam Leader, is what I can say at the end, toward the end of session last year, when a chairman has to look out an audience and everyone is disrupting and he has to bring a room to order, it makes it very difficult on the chairman. We have had just a couple of cases last year. There were just 2, I believe, where the room had to be cleared. If the room has to be cleared, no one is allowed back in, period. So if the entire room chooses to disrupt a proceeding, you are impacting everybody else. This is no different than what happens in Washington, D.C. when people are removed from the gallery on the House floor or in committees. They are removed from being a disruption. So if all the people around you choose to disrupt this process, then you are impacting the ability for people to be able to testify. And so the people in the room need to understand that, Mr. Chairman. So I believe we'll hold to that. We have not had our chairman's meeting yet, but I believe we'll hold to that, if there's a complete disruption in the room and the room is cleared, no one will be allowed back in. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Speaker Zachary. I have Leader Camper and Representative Akeem again on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's what I thought. If the room is clear, then the person can't come back in. Even if they are driving, if they're in their car parking and that room is cleared, the doors are locked and they're on the list, but they outside parking, they would not have an opportunity to testify. That's my concern. And so, hey, these people, this is a different group of people. And we don't know who else is going to be in that room. We don't know what anybody is going to do, what conversation that may happen that triggers something for somebody that have a ripple effect. And that person is on the road driving here, has nothing to do with it. So I think because of, the momentous nature of what we're doing, there needs to be some way to allow those people to still testify. And I think we have the rules before us right now, and we can address it. Even if it's a matter of, okay, if you're testifying, you're on this to testify, we're going to hold you in the cloakroom until we call you up. Let that go. Let that go. So what I'm saying is,
Leader Camper, I think that person's showing themselves out, and that's unfortunate, the outburst. The rest of us are trying to listen diligently to what your point is, and you have the floor.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'm saying is maybe we can have them in the cloakroom. Those that are set to testify, they're in the back just waiting to be called up or something like that. I think we need to address this, Mr. Chairman and members. Speaker, I really appreciate your comments. I really appreciate we haven't cleared a lot of rooms, but it's a lot of emotions here. It's a lot on the line. And I just think these people who have traveled afar should have an opportunity. There need to be a way to allow that to happen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Speaker Zachary for response.
Thank you, Leader, and I appreciate the comments. And what our chairmen really do, and at their discretion, is they really try to, if there is a row that needs to be cleared, they try to clear the row. I know in years past, sometimes it was just clear the room, but I think Chairman Crawford actually, I'm not saying this so he can speak, but Chairman Crawford did a really good job last year of removing individual people. So that is the chairman. The first priority is to keep order in the room and remove those who are causing the disruption. But as you know, Leader, you've been in some of these rooms. Sometimes the entire room explodes and he has no choice. And when that happens, then there's consequences for the entire room. Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Speaker. And I have Representative Shaw next, and I have Representative Akeem back on the list as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I was just going to suggest, since this is extraordinary session and emotions are high, we know that, would it be possible maybe to then hold those speakers, whoever going to testify, maybe in the back room somewhere until to come out and testify, because maybe it's been discussed, and I don't think we can take a side here, because we understand that that cannot be disruption. We understand the chairman cannot see everybody. All that is true. I don't think any of us are arguing that, but I do think that this being this extraordinary session and somebody has to travel to testify, it's important that they do so. Maybe we could put them in a holding room or something until that time comes and let them come in a case like this, since this is unusual.
Thank you, Representative Shaw. What I'll do is I'll speak to the speaker myself and see if maybe another committee room or something like that could be available for witnesses and try to see if there's options that are available. And we'll try to work through that because again, all of us want to make sure that witnesses are heard and that a disruption will not keep a witness from being able to testify. So we'll look and see if there's some options out there available and just see what's possible to make sure that folks that are on the witness list are able to be heard regardless of what disruption might happen in the room. So definitely we'll look at some options there. I have Representative Hakeem on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, this is a special section, extraordinary. And, you know, we talk about not doing something customarily. And it seems to be a problem with the voice of the people. My contention is that what we're here about is the people selecting their representative as opposed to their representative support, depending on who their people are that they represent. And I think that we need to come to a conclusion. We need to know if the speakers will have an opportunity to speak, because what I'm hearing is maybe this, if this person says yes, if that person, why should we limit the speakers because of an action that has taken place? My contention is that that should not be the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hakeem. I have Speaker Zachary back on the list.
Thank you, Leader. Move previous question.
Is there a second? Section will be initially voting on previous question. All those in favor of previous question signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay? Nay. The ayes have it. We'll be voting on, We'll be voting on the submission with musical accompaniment, apparently. So, members, all those in favor of this rule submission by Representative Boyd signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay? The ayes have it. All right. Members, we stand adjourned. Nope, hang on. We do not. Representative Farmer, your representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the changes to the permanent rules of the order of the 114th General Assembly as adopted by this committee be submitted to the House, report of the ad hoc committee, rules of second extraordinary session. In order to establish permanent rules of order of the second extraordinary session of the 114th General Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There is a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We now stand adjourned. Thank you.